The following program is brought to you by Naleo TV, the People's Platform.
Keeping our island community informed and secure. Be alert, be aware, and care. Together we can have a safe Hawaiʻi.
Happy September, everybody. I'm Adam Weintraub, and this is Civil Defense Personal Preparedness Podcast. I'm a staff officer with Civil Defense. I'm here with Talmadge Magno. Talmadge is the administrator of Civil Defense.
Hi, folks.
Since our last episode, it's been a couple of months, and there's been one major development that we should talk about, and that was the tsunami warning and evacuation on July the 29th. It's been a long time since our last tsunami evacuation. We, of course, had the one in Japan in 2011, and there was an evacuation in 2012 where it was the evacuation itself that caused a fatality as somebody was trying to leave the area of the coast. Fortunately, we did not have those kinds of problems, but we should talk about the tsunami evacuation and about how to improve the process as we go. The earliest confirmed tsunami affecting Hawaii was in 1812. There have been more than 160 recorded since then, and there is evidence of other tsunamis going all the way back to the 1500s in Molokai that was commemorated in a chant. At least close to 300 people have been killed by tsunamis in the modern era, and the Big Island has been hit clearly the hardest by that, with 86% of all tsunami deaths recorded here and something like 6 out of every 10 in Hilo alone. So we pay a lot of attention to tsunamis. We spend a lot of time drilling. And Talmadge, talk a little bit about local tsunamis, because we didn't have one of those this time, but that is the most dangerous tsunami that we face.
Well, local tsunamis are pretty severe on this island. In fact, this year is the 50th year of the Puna coastline earthquake and local tsunami that killed 2 people during that period in 1975. So of course, the cause is a local earthquake, displacement of coastline or water offshore, which results in immediate tsunami for those areas, 12 minutes to Hilo, maybe twice that time to Kona. But nevertheless, they are a fear that we have on this island that people need to be aware of. So you need to recognize if there is a strong earthquake, one that you have a problem standing up, and you're down on the coastline, you need to take action immediately, move to high ground, move inland. Some of the signs are also that if the water recedes rapidly, you see a lot of the shoreline or the coast, the floor, the sea floor, maybe fishes flopping around. That's a sign that tsunami is coming. Time to move inland. Also, when that happens, you probably hear rumbling, roaring from the ocean above what usually happens. And so that's another indicator that you need to move inland rapidly.
Yeah, we have seen various campaigns over the year to try and sensitize people to those local tsunamis. It's the slogan for the most recent one was "Don't fool around, go to high ground." Those can happen so quickly that you won't even have a chance to confirm the tsunami is coming before it arrives. So you may not even hear the sirens in that case. This was a very different incident from the distant tsunami that we were dealing with on July the 29th. We did have a few hours of advance time, and it enabled us to use all of our various preparations. So the distant tsunami can take anywhere from 4.5 hours to 15 or 16 hours to arrive, depending on where it originates. In this case, it came just off the coast of Russia in the Kamchatka area. And from the first moment that they detected the seismic waves, we knew that we had about 6 hours before whatever was going to happen to us. So 1:24 local time, deep below the surface, we got those first warnings. And The first tsunami watch message went out from our partners at Pacific Tsunami Warning Center at about 1:33 p.m., and it didn't take very long for them to look at some other data and see that this was a much larger incident than they had originally thought. When they started triangulating data from other locations and looking at the waves close to the epicenter, they saw this was a much larger earthquake and potentially had the capability of causing some severe damage. So they issued a tsunami warning at 2:43 p.m., and that's when the emergency management folks sprang into action. We knew that we had until about 7:15 before the first waves arrived. Talmadge, tell us a little bit about what we did to get ready.
So while all this was going on, we were in conversation with state emergency management, the governor, all the other counties to coordinate the response. So once that warning was issued, we agreed that the siren would be sounded, and then everybody would be sending out their countywide alerts. So we started with that. That moved us into the evacuation order, which prompts the roadblocks to be set up. So police, public works, parks and recreation, state highways, sheriff's office all supported us in putting up the roadblocks, establishing checkpoints so that folks could get out and as orderly as possible. We also have practiced quite a bit evacuation for the Keaukaha people through the airport, and then the Lele'ivi people through the Nene Street evacuation route. So all those actions were put into place.
And the good news is that it worked in this case. Pretty much everybody who tried to leave the area along the coastline was out of the danger zone by the time the waves arrived. Now, we didn't know until they actually got to us that they were mainly just going to do a little bit of property damage on some of the coastal properties. But the good news is that mostly everything worked as expected and achieved the objectives that we had set. Now, the bad news was that it could have worked a little better. And anytime you've got an incident like this, it's an opportunity for us to kind of fine-tune the instrument and see where we could do a little bit better. What kinds of effects did we see that were unexpected or negative?
So we understand moving this much people away from the coastlines, island-wide, statewide, is going to cause chaos and congestion in the streets. So we definitely saw that, but we also realized that it didn't need to be that way or as bad because some people that were already in safe areas could have stayed put and allowed traffic to flow a little bit easier as the people in the inundation areas needed to get out.
And we recognize that when you're stuck in traffic during an emergency situation, that can be frightening, but the majority of the traffic snarls, as I understand it, were in areas that were already outside the inundation zone. So those folks were safe. They may not have felt that way, but for the most part, they had already cleared that most dangerous area.
Right. And we will make an effort to make sure that people understand where those zones are, that if you're on Queen Kahumanu Highway, you are clear of any inundation zone, such as that, and other areas in Hilo. Once you get out of the evacuation or the inundation zone, you're safe. So we'll make that a little bit clearer. We do have signs posted, though. So if you take notice, leaving tsunami evacuation zone, entering tsunami evacuation zone, those clarify those areas. So take heed, during this quiet time, take heed of all those signs that point out these things and also the evacuation routes.
So we've already started analyzing how to correct some of the issues that we saw, either with better signage or with better training for some of the personnel who are executing the plans out in the field. One thing that we find can be extremely helpful to the public is if they know if they have to leave. And a lot of folks that I talked to afterwards were under the impression that they needed to go up the mountain and you just needed to get above the highway, or you just needed to get a few 100 feet back from the coastline, and you were in a safe area. So knowing whether you have to go can be an important part of preparation. And that means checking whether your home, your workplace, your school, or any other location where you spend time is in the evacuation zone. So we've got a website that can help you identify that. It's easy. You go to the Hawaii County Civil Defense website and you scroll down to a tile that says tsunami on it. There's a lot of useful information on that page. Tsunami, how they're formed, how long they take, all of that. But for now, scroll down to the link on that page that says Tsunami Evacuation Zone Maps. If you click that link, you'll see the page, and there'll be a place where you can enter your address. And if you hit return, it'll tell you whether you're in the tsunami evacuation zone. So we'll have an example on the screen. You should be able to follow along. We've started to input Hilo International Airport. And when you click through that, you can see the airport's in the yellow extreme evacuation zone. That means that only the largest tsunamis would endanger that area, and that's why the airport was not closed. On July 29th, we did have to shut it down in order to help people evacuate from the area you'll see just in between the airport and the ocean, that red zone. That's a neighborhood, and if you take a look at Pua Avenue, which is in that neighborhood, you can see on the map that comes up that it's squarely in the tsunami evacuation zone. And that's why we've devoted so much attention to getting folks out across the airport and around the airport. The airport was shut down. It was the only airport in the state that actually shut down, and that freed up space for folks to leave that area before the waves arrived. So if you aren't sure whether you need to evacuate your home or your business, check it out online. And if for some reason the interactive map is not working for you, either you don't have good internet or you have problems working the interface, just give us a call. Give us a call at Civil Defense. The number will be on your screen before we're done here, and we will help you figure it out. So all in all, Talmadge, it was an exercise that showed us some weak points for improvement, but nobody was hurt. And we'll do better next time.
Absolutely. As you said, we met all of our objectives, and we'll use it as a training tool.
All right. That's all for this time. We'll see you again next month on the podcast for personal preparedness.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Fire Prevention Party. I am here. I am Roy Henderson, here with our inspector, Mr. Tyson Gu.
What's up, everybody?
There you go. That's what you're going to get out of him the whole day. All right. Okay, so we're talking about, we're having a conversation about November, right? Because it's the holidays and what kind of stuff is, like, what things are issues, right? Pertinent issues, right? Like, so for fire prevention, right? Because we do unfortunately have fires at those times of year when families around, and it sucks, right? So we wanted to talk a little bit today about how we could potentially mitigate those things, like slow them down, have less.
Reduce.
Yeah, reduce. So we were discussing off camera the cooking aspect of like November. Because, I mean, families around, families coming into town, everybody's cooking. And, a lot of people, they'll cook for 40 people, but then they really only have a stove made for 5 people. Right. So with the cooking stuff, in terms of how much they're cooking, what types of devices they're using. Right. So first of all, we talked about in the last episode, we talked about smoke alarms.
And a smoke alarm.
Okay. So I think we should maybe talk about that real quick in terms of how important it is to do testing before.
Yeah. So you want to test them like on the back of the box. It does say weekly, but I would say at least monthly. To press the button annually, maybe check it. Double check it, and then you can see the date. Most people will remember, but it's usually about 10 years. We say about 8, just to double check. I've had maybe like 7 years on one device.
Well, the other thing is too is because of the amount that we're doing cooking, right? It's probably a good idea to make sure they're refreshed, ready to go. A lot of times too, in the holidays, you have people sleeping over at your house and stuff. So That's probably a good thing to kind of make sure everything works properly, right?
Having your smoke alarms in every single room,
Yeah.
always included.
Yeah.
One of the number one fires that we always see is unattended cooking fires.
Right.
That's probably one of the most documented for Hawaii Island. At least,
Big
right?
time. Big time.
Especially when you have family, you're doing a bunch of stuff, getting ready.
Right.
You know, dinner's supposed to be at 6 and you're rushing around getting ready. So
Your kids are driving you nuts.
yeah, you
destroying the house.
Stove top, right? That's a lot of unattended cooking fires.
Yeah,
The number one fires we have.
Yeah, for sure. So with the unattended cooking fires, that's probably our number one safety tip, right? Is be aware of what you're doing, you know, who's around. I mean, we want to make sure that, you know, we have the areas clean, because I know what happens, right? You have a smaller kitchen, you have tons of people going in and out, you got just people throwing stuff all over the place, you know, I'm washing dishes, then I'm kind of throwing the rag on the side, not realizing that maybe I'm setting it on something hot or that type of stuff, right? Yeah. So kind of just being aware of your circumstances, housekeeping, you know, that kind of stuff. So, and then paying attention, of course, you know, keeping track of that. Always having somebody who kind of stays in the kitchen, I think, is a big one. Yeah. I know a lot of times people are kind of trying to do both, right? Because sometimes people are doing Christmas and Thanksgiving at once. You know what I mean? Like the family's only going to come in once from the mainland. So they're trying to do everything at once, right? So you're trying to wrap gifts and do stuff, and they're only going to be here for 2 weeks. Or
most people don't have air conditioning, so they go outside, right? So your kitchen is inside. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things we talked about in our Fire Tip Tuesdays on our podcast is the
fire blankets. A lot of people don't know about this.
This thing is amazing.
So we give this another option. Fire extinguishers in your home is probably one of the most beneficial things that you could have. A lot of people, but I think the studies was like 80% of people don't know how to use a fire extinguisher. Yeah, especially during emergencies. Yeah, but everyone should know how to use a blanket.
Well, the other thing about the fire blankets too, that's like problematic. What the extinguishers are problematic is everybody doesn't understand what they're designed for. So a lot of people would try to use this, like the regular red ones on the kitchen fires, but it's not made for that, right?
Yeah, there's actually a certain fire extinguisher meant for kitchens.
Yeah, so if you go to like the hardware stores, like HPM or whatever, Home Depot, that type of place, they have like the 2-pack, right? Yeah. There's one red, one white, and the white is for cooking, kitchens, that type of thing, right? So, you know, it was made for grease fires. Yeah. But we found a really neat alternative. I think it has less maintenance. Thing, you know, it's easier to use, multiple use. So this is a fire blanket. So essentially, should I bust this out with
you can hang it, you can put it inside one of your kitchen cabinets. So I have one in the cabinet.
Yeah, we have one on our wall too. Yeah, so you can just whip this thing out, and if you look online, it's open. If you like. I won't open all the way. Then I'm gonna hit the mic.
We'll just put it back.
So you can see it's a nice big blanket. You can just put it behind your arms like this, throw it over the fire, right?
Yeah.
I was gonna throw it over him, but then there's mics in the way, so that's getting tossed.
Device, and it just kind of kills the fire. It takes the O2 away from the fire, oxygen out of the fire, deprives it.
So then that way you can smother it. You don't have to do major cleanup afterwards, because that's one of the things too, right? Is people would use these and then their entire kitchen is just ruined, right? So the blanket kind of helps cut the fire out. If it's, you know, a grease fire or whatever, it'll help cover it. You can let the fire die down, you know, clean up just that area.
And it's super cost effective. I think it's only like $30. Yeah. Something like that. You can look on Amazon.
It also doesn't require maintenance.
Yeah.
Right? Because with regular extinguishers, the funny part is people don't realize is these things they're pressurized, but they're powdered. So if you're not kind of shaking them every year and then actually hitting the bottom to loosen up all the powder, like what happens is, it basically turns into batter. So even if it shows green.
Interior of a home.
Interior, right? And then, so the funny thing is, like, we're locals. So everybody cooks outside on walks.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, a bunch of us do, right? So with that, what kind of stuff do we want to have outside, you know, while we're doing that?
It kind of depends on what you're cooking, yeah?
Right.
I mean, a lot of people are cooking turkey during that time,
right?
Yeah? So we see a lot of people get oil burns or, you know, fires from the exterior because of that. It's unattended as well, but if it gets out of control, I mean, maybe turkey, you got to fully thaw it out. That's the number one thing that we think of if you're cooking turkey.
Well, that's the deep frying, right?
Yeah, deep frying.
But then the other thing is interesting is because a lot of people, well, especially on this side, it's Hilo. It rains like all the time.
Yeah.
So it'd be good to, you know, I understand people kind of cook under the eaves, keep the rain out or whatever, but it's making sure that you're not next to anything, you know, too combustible, you know, trying to keep it away from your house as much as possible. Yeah. That type of stuff, right? Yeah. And with the turkeys is weird too, because you can look online, there's some crazy videos where they stick the turkey in, and it basically all the stuff inside the pot basically turns into like a firebomb. It's like a flamethrower. So you throw it in and just.
We might do testing this year on it.
Are we gonna do testing?
Might.
Okay, we may or may not do testing.
A lot of fire departments do tests just to show how dangerous it is.
We're probably doing the testing. Yeah. So we'll do something like that. But yeah, that kind of cooking. And then the other one we get a lot of complaints about, I think is good to kind of just go over, is the like outdoor cooking fires. You know, so a lot of people are pulehu, or, you know, one of the big ones is like smokehouses, emus, and stuff like that. So what can we do to ensure that as people are doing emus and those things, that they're kind of being safer?
I think first of all, I think the first thing is you want to let the fire department know you're doing some kind of type of, whether it's emu or smokehouse, because there's a lot of smoke that comes up vertical. So a lot of people will call it in as smoke sighting. Yeah. So if you call our dispatch center or ahead of time, and you or the fire department, if you have the station's number, you can call them directly and tell them, like, on this date, we're going to be doing a smokehouse, you know, just in case there's smoke sighting or whatever. Yeah. That's one of the main things, I think, because we always get called for smoke sightings.
Please don't call our office, because we'll just tell you to call dispatch. Yeah. Just letting you know.
What else can you think about?
Well, like, I'm thinking about things like water sources, right? Because you think about places like, you know, Paradise Park. They have big 1 acre lots, right? And then their house is in the front. They're doing, you know, emus in the back, and it's kind of far away from the house. So, you know, what about stuff like water sources? Making sure you have water hoses, you know, wetting things down, clearing brush. So that's another one that's happened a couple of times, right? Guys like when emu and then the brush is too close and it starts burning the brush. And
especially on Waikoloa side right now. I know how that west side, it's real dry right now. It's been dry.
So be aware of weather conditions. Right? I think would be a big one. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, stuff like that, smokehouses, you know, we do have a lot of people coming in, and we do get a lot of calls about, you know, that type of stuff. The famous, my neighbors, you know, smoke is, you know, doing whatever. And unfortunately, just to let you guys know, it is well within the code that cooking fires are allowed. So, you know, we try to tell people to be reasonable. Be safe about it. Be reasonable. You know, if the wind's blowing a certain way, be mindful of your neighbors, you know, that kind of stuff. But yeah, so those are some, you know, quick stuff that we like to think about. Just think about being safe. You know, I understand that it's chaotic and everybody's, you know, trying to worry about family and all this stuff, and, you know, cooking big meals. And you can always send us an invite, by the way. We like good food. We work at Fire Admin. You can drop it off for us, especially pie. But, you know, we understand it's really important. So we appreciate everybody's time. You know, please, if you have any questions, reach out to us. You know, once again, it has been another wonderful edition of the Fire Prevention Party. We appreciate you. Have a blessed day. Take care.
Hello.
I am Officer Kaipo Arello of the Hawaiʻi Police Department, and I am here to ask for your assistance in locating individuals who you will see in just a moment. Our department depends on you to work with us by acting as our eyes and ears out in the community. If you provide an anonymous tip through Crime Stoppers, you may be eligible for a reward of up to $1,000. Crime Stoppers is a volunteer program run by ordinary citizens like you who want to keep our community safe. Here's how it works. First, get a code. Next, use your code to track your status and then collect your reward. It's that easy. Here are some individuals we need your help in locating. Please call if you know their whereabouts.
Help us locate 29-year-old Joshua Kealoha, who is wanted on a $2,000 warrant stemming from a previous arrest for excessive speeding, DUI, and driving with a suspended, revoked driver license. Kealoha is part Hawaiian, 5 feet 7 inches tall, 150 pounds, with brown hair and hazel eyes. He is known to frequent Waimea and Kailua Kona areas. We are looking for 43-year-old Cole Race Joaquin of Honoka'a, who is wanted for a $50,000 arrest warrant. Race Joaquin is 5 feet 7 inches tall, 150 pounds, with black hair, brown eyes, and numerous tattoos on his face and body. He is known to frequent the Puna, Hamakua, and Ka'u districts and should be considered armed and dangerous. Help us locate 39-year-old Casey Huya Sam, who has 2 outstanding warrants totaling $35,000. Known to frequent the Honoka'a and Waimea areas, Huya Sam is 5 feet 10 inches tall, 190 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. Please help us locate 43-year-old Adam Nacionales, who is wanted on 2 arrest warrants totaling $100,000.
He is 5 feet 9 inches tall, 200 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. Nacionales is known to frequent the downtown Hilo and Wainaku areas. Please help us locate 31-year-old Kapono Ikaika Cruz Labrador of Hilo, who is wanted for an outstanding arrest warrant and a traffic warrant. Labrador is described as 5 feet 5 inches tall, 160 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes, as well as numerous tattoos on his neck and body. Be on the lookout for 26-year-old Erosen Amaro Trujillo Ramos of Captain Cook, who is wanted for an outstanding grand jury indictment warrant. He is described as 5 feet 8 inches tall, 160 pounds. We are looking for 38-year-old Keali'ioke Kamanu, who is wanted for 2 outstanding warrants and 3 polo alerts. Kamanu is described as having a medium build, 5 feet 11 inches tall, 180 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. He frequents Lower Puna area, mostly in the vicinity of Kalapana and Leilani Estates subdivision. Please help us locate 33-year-old Christopher Matos, who is wanted on 3 outstanding warrants and 5 APBs. Matos has a large build, is 5 feet 11 inches tall, 195 pounds, with short black hair and brown eyes. He is known to frequent the Lower and Upper Puna area. Matos is also known to be armed and dangerous and should not be approached. Please be on the lookout for 44-year-old Ross Piper of Ocean View, who is wanted on an outstanding warrant totaling $2,000, as well as for questioning relative to multiple criminal investigations involving auto theft. Piper is described as 5 feet 9 inches tall, 165 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. Call us if you know the whereabouts of 39-year-old Kendrick Sanders, who is wanted for questioning for multiple criminal investigations involving violating a temporary restraining order. He is described as being 5 feet 11 inches tall, 180 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. Sanders is known to frequent the Ocean View and South Kona areas.
As always, we want to thank you for your assistance in helping us to locate these individuals. Tipsters who prefer to remain anonymous may call the island-wide Crime Stoppers number at 808-961-8300 and may be eligible for a reward of up to $1,000. Crime Stoppers does not record calls or use caller ID. Hawaii Island's Most Wanted is a project of Crime Stoppers Hilo, Inc., which is a partnership of the business community, the media, and the police. It was inspired by the national TV show America's Most Wanted. I am Officer Kaipo Arello of the Hawaii Police Department. Mahalo for watching.